Soon, the couple was seated at the table next to ours.
Shall we head to my place after this?
Sure, let's do that.
The man, grinning, took off his sunglasses. At that moment, Julie leaned over and whispered to me,
Isn't that Tom?
"What?" I instinctively looked up and turned to the table next to us. That's when my eyes met the man sitting next to us. The moment I realized it was Tom, he looked away. At the same time, sweat started dripping from his forehead. I already knew he was cheating, but I never expected to run into him like this. But this must be a chance given to me by fate. In this situation, there's no room for excuses. I have to confront him here and now. I wonder what kind of excuse Tom will try to make. No matter what, the other woman is right here, and she's already let something slip. Now, it's time to let this situation simmer, like the perfect dish in this restaurant. Since he betrayed me, he should be ready to face the consequences. Let the curtain rise on my revenge. I quietly reached into my bag. My name is Ashley, and I'm 33 years old. Today, as usual, I'm busy taking care of the house. The reason I'm so busy is that I've actually been working a side gig as an online tutor. By the way, I haven't told my husband, Tom, about this tutoring job. It's not that I don't want to be honest with him. It's just that Tom never listens to what I have to say. For instance, when I once mentioned wanting to work part-time, he brushed it off, saying, "You're too shy to handle that." I wish he would trust me just a little more. I married Tom because I believed in his words. But maybe that was the wrong decision. When we were dating, Tom used to listen to everything I said. I first met Tom in a university club for mystery enthusiasts. As a shy person, I never had any intention of joining a club. But when a classmate invited me, I couldn't say no, so I ended up showing up. Of course, being shy, I couldn't talk comfortably with the people I met there. While I was nervously keeping to myself, Tom, who was a senior, came over and started talking to me.
Take your time. Just talk at your own pace.
While no one else paid me any attention, Tom was the only one who showed concern for me. It was his kindness that drew me to him, and I found it easy to talk openly with him. Eventually, we started dating, and even the other club members recognized our relationship. That's how I spent a wonderful college life, but it wasn't long before it came to an end. Tom's graduation was approaching. It wasn't that we were talking about breaking up or anything like that. It was just that once Tom graduated, it would be hard to have the same kind of relationship we had as students. That realization made me feel down. Seeing me like that, Tom said,
Ashley, how about we get married after you graduate?
"What? Really?"
Of course, but I might make you go through some tough times.
Tom admitted his worries. The reason for his hesitation was his job search. While job hunting, Tom had also been developing software with some classmates. Their project was starting to gain traction, and they were considering starting a company together. It wasn't a bad idea, of course, but there was a risk if it didn't work out. Tom shared all of this with me. While I couldn't give my full approval without reservations, I wanted to support him, so I said, "Why not do what you think is best? There's no point in worrying about failure before it even happens."
You're right. Okay, I'm going for it.
And with that, Tom decided not to take a traditional job and instead launched an IT company with his friends. Though there have been ups and downs, Tom's company has steadily grown its business. One day, as my graduation was approaching, Tom suddenly asked to meet me. He even mentioned that he had reserved a table at a fancy restaurant. Could it be an early graduation celebration? Feeling excited, I hurried to the meeting place. But there, he said something completely unexpected.
Ashley, you don't need to get a job.
What? Why not? Does he want me to work at his company? As I was thinking that, Tom explained,
There's no way someone as shy as you could handle working at a company, right?
well, that's not exactly. I couldn't deny it completely, but I did have experience working as a tutor. Besides, I felt like I'd gotten better at talking to people recently. I carefully explained all of this to Tom, but he just sighed.
Look, the working world isn't that easy. It's obviously not going to work out for you.
But
I'm saying this for your own good. And you're going to marry me after graduation, right?
Tom pressed me for an answer. I nodded quietly.
Then I need you to fully support me as a stay-at-home wife.
Okay,
I know I'm not making much money yet, but one day I'll make you a proud CEO's wife. Got it?
maybe Tom was right. His company, though still a startup, was stable. I figured that supporting Tom without overextending myself might lead to a secure life for both of us in the future. So I decided to follow his suggestion and not look for a job. After that, I told my parents that I wouldn't be working and planned to get married instead. By the way, as soon as Tom and I started dating, he introduced himself to my parents. When he launched his company, and whenever something important happened, Tom always talked to them. I think he did this to show my parents that he was serious about our relationship. Maybe because of those efforts, my parents didn't complain about anything. And so, Tom and I got married right after my graduation. Even after we got married, Tom wasn't any different than when we were dating. But that didn't necessarily mean everything was great. Right after we got married, we struggled financially. Sure, being the CEO of an IT company sounds impressive, but in reality, it was just a small business. Actually, calling it a micro-enterprise might be more accurate. With such a small operation, even the CEO had to work like a regular employee. On top of that, the company's revenue was still in the growth phase, so it wasn't as high as what you'd see in larger companies. In short, even though Tom was the CEO, he was busy with work and didn't earn much.
Sorry, Ashley. My paycheck isn't much again this month.
It's fine, Tom. It's not much different from what a new hire at a big company makes. To be honest, compared to new employees at large corporations, Tom's salary was lower. That said, as long as we weren't extravagant, we weren't in danger of financial ruin. But there was one problem. We were newlyweds. Living together as a couple obviously cost more than living alone. Our grocery expenses increased, as did our utility bills for electricity, gas, and water. We also had to buy all kinds of household items, so no amount of money seemed enough. For now, I guess we'll have to rely on my parents. It felt wrong to depend on my parents after choosing to be a stay-at-home wife. But I thought that if we could just get through this, the future would be brighter. And the only time I could lean on my parents was during the early days of our marriage. I figured that after being married for several years, I'd be too embarrassed to rely on them. So I swallowed my pride and turned to my parents for help. Still, it wasn't all bad. The more we struggled, the more I appreciated small moments of happiness. Tom's occasional acts of kindness were exactly that.
Ashley, I'm really sorry for making you go through this. I got you a little something today.
Tom pulled out a grocery bag he had been hiding behind his back. Inside were 2 of the latest trendy desserts. These are the desserts everyone's talking about online, right?
Yeah, I thought we could enjoy them together.
Thanks, Tom. Some might think it was nothing special, but I was content with that kind of life. However, no matter how much I supported Tom, his salary showed no signs of increasing. Although the company's performance seemed steady, there were still a lot of expenses. Hiring new employees and investing in the latest equipment required endless funding.
Just a little longer. We're almost done setting up the internal structure.
I know. I'll figure out how to make it work. This was a conversation we had 5 years into our marriage. By then, the savings I had built up from my tutoring job before graduation were completely gone. I couldn't bring myself to ask my parents for help again. After much thought, I finally made up my mind to start working. Tom, I've been thinking about starting a part-time job.
Why all of a sudden?
Well, life's been getting harder, and I feel like it's not right for me to just sit around doing nothing. I knew it might be tough for someone like me, with no job experience, to land a full-time position. But I thought I might manage a part-time job. However, Tom gave me a stern look and said,
You wouldn't be able to handle it.
I couldn't say anything in response. Tom quickly tried to soften the blow.
I didn't mean it in a bad way. It's just, you're too shy.
He went on making excuses, but none of it sank in. I think I was just too shocked, feeling like he had labeled me incompetent. Before I knew it, Tom was trying to wrap up the conversation.
Anyway, I'll just take on more work. You just focus on the housework, Ashley.
Of course, I couldn't argue against that. After that, Tom did take on more work. He started working weekends and holidays, sometimes even staying overnight for jobs. His return times got later, and there were even a few nights each month when he wouldn't come home until the early morning. Still, the extra income was only marginal. But more than that, I was touched by his efforts. If Tom was working so hard for my sake, I felt I had to do something for him in return. What can I do? I thought about using my experience as a tutor. When people think of jobs for housewives, working part-time at places like grocery stores often comes to mind. But those jobs usually involve shifts, and you can't always work at convenient times. If Tom found out I was working, it might make him worry unnecessarily. I wanted him to focus solely on his company, so I decided to work as an online tutor. Since it's online, I could do it from home. I'd finish my housework during the day and start tutoring in the evening. As long as I wrapped up before Tom came home, he wouldn't find out. This plan worked perfectly. And even with short hours, the income was decent. Hopefully, this will ease our financial burden a little. And so, I started secretly working as an online tutor, keeping it hidden from Tom. About 5 years passed, and this year marked the 10th anniversary of our marriage. Tom's salary had increased significantly, but his work remained just as busy. It wasn't uncommon for him to work on weekends, and trips out of town for business were still a regular occurrence. One Sunday, after Tom had left for work, I went out shopping.
Buy this tie for work, will you?
Before heading out for work, Tom showed me his phone while saying that. On the screen was a photo of a luxury brand tie. I instinctively frowned. Isn't this a bit pricey?
I'm the CEO, so I need to dress the part.
I guess he has a point. Later, I went alone to a luxury store to buy the tie. That's when I ran into someone nostalgic. It happened just as I finished shopping and was leaving the store.
Ashley, is that you?
I turned around to see Mark, one of Tom's classmates from college, standing there. He had also been a member of the Mystery Club, so I knew him as well. On top of that, he was now helping manage Tom's company. For various reasons, he was someone I couldn't ignore. Since I could at least hold a proper conversation with Mark, I felt relieved to have run into someone I could talk to. Hi, Mark. Are you working today? I asked casually. Mark furrowed his brow.
What? No, it's my day off. Tom's at home too, right?
What? At home. At that moment, it all clicked. Tom lied about going to work.
Wait, is he not home?
Mark looked flustered. By now, it was clear to anyone what was going on. Tom had lied about work to leave the house and seemed to be having an affair with someone somewhere. The more I listened to Mark, the more inconsistencies surfaced. Tom's salary was reportedly skyrocketing, much more than what I had been told. And there was no such thing as overnight work. Moreover, most of the business trips were handled by his employees. In other words, everything he told me was a lie. I made up an excuse and rushed home. When I checked Tom's social media, I found several posts that were clearly suspicious. Most were about work, but among them was a post titled "Gift for My Wife." It showed a photo of a luxury brand perfume, and the post made it seem like he had given it to me. I don't remember ever receiving anything like this. I gripped my teeth. I immediately hired a private investigator to look into Tom's behavior. It'll take about 2 weeks to get the results. It was almost certain that Tom was cheating. All I needed was solid proof. Even if the evidence came in quickly, I might not be emotionally ready to face it. No matter what the results are, I need to prepare myself. I spent each day nervously waiting. 2 weeks later, when the investigation report arrived, I immediately contacted my best friend from high school, Julie. "I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet?" That was all it took for Julie to rush over. We arranged to meet at the station and headed to a French restaurant in the downtown area.
This place has expensive courses, but their lunch menu is super affordable.
Julie said proudly. I could tell she was trying to be considerate in her own way. We entered the French restaurant and were seated by the window. After placing our lunch orders, I apologized. "Sorry for calling you out like this. Is your nursing job okay?"
Well, it's busy, but I'm off today, so it's fine. What's going on? Is it about Tom?
I nodded quietly at Julie's question. Just then, a high-pitched voice echoed through the restaurant.
This place is really popular for lunch.
Looks expensive though.
It's fine. Lunch here is cheap.
It seemed a cheerful couple had just entered the restaurant. Not wanting to stare, I averted my eyes. Julie, however, kept glancing at the pair. Soon, the couple was seated at the table next to ours.
Shall we head to my place after this?
Sure, let's do that.
The man, grinning, took off his sunglasses. At that moment, Julie leaned over and whispered to me,
Isn't that Tom?
"What?" I instinctively looked up and turned to the table next to us. That's when my eyes met the man sitting next to us. The moment I realized it was Tom, he looked away. At the same time, sweat started dripping from his forehead. I already knew he was cheating, but I never expected to run into him like this. But this must be a chance given to me by fate. In this situation, there's no room for excuses. I have to confront him here and now. I wonder what kind of excuse Tom will try to make. No matter what, the other woman is right here, and she's already let something slip. Now, it's time to let this situation simmer, like the perfect dish in this restaurant. Since he betrayed me, he should be ready to face the consequences. Let the curtain rise on my revenge. I quietly reached into my bag. "You're sweating a lot. Is something wrong?" I handed Tom my handkerchief as I spoke to him. Thankfully, Julie's earlier comment didn't seem to have reached the ears of the woman in front of us. She appeared genuinely concerned about Tom, just as I was pretending to be.
Are you okay?
Yeah. More importantly,
Tom started to say something but stopped. The woman turned to me apologetically.
Sorry, my boyfriend is causing trouble.
"Oh, it's fine. Your boyfriend?" I asked her while keeping my gaze fixed on Tom. He was sweating profusely, like a waterfall.
He's sweating a lot right now, but he's usually such a handsome boyfriend.
The woman said with a shy laugh. "Is that so?" I nodded while keeping my eyes on Tom. The next moment, Tom collapsed onto the table. Then he started sobbing uncontrollably. Both Julie and I stared at him in disbelief. Meanwhile, the other woman seemed genuinely concerned about Tom, who had suddenly broken down crying.
Hey, are you okay, Tom? What's wrong?
Her concern effectively blocked any chance Tom had to claim he wasn't who I thought he was. At this rate, things wouldn't go anywhere. There was even a chance Tom might try to escape in the chaos. I glanced at Julie. Then I turned to the woman and spoke. "Excuse me, what's your name?"
Me? I'm Rachel.
She looked puzzled. I smiled and continued. "Rachel, right. Actually, my best friend here is a nurse. If he's feeling unwell, she can check on you." As I said that, I gestured toward Julie, and Rachel's eyes shifted to her.
A nurse? Really?
I can't diagnose, but I can help with first aid.
Please, I'd appreciate it.
Rachel eagerly asked for Julie's help, and Julie nodded with a smile. "All right, I'll help too. Hello, are you feeling any pain anywhere?" I said loudly into Tom's ear. But all he did was cry. Did he really think this childish act would work? Annoyed, I raised my voice again right into his ear. "Are you in pain anywhere? Because I'm in pain. My heart aches from being cheated on." At that moment, Rachel's face froze. Tom, still slumped over the table, flinched.
Cheating. What are you talking about?
"Oh, just a thought. Could it be that you're in the middle of an affair?" I stared directly at Rachel. She scoffed and tried to deflect.
What are you talking about? We're just on a date.
"Oh, I see. My apologies."
But for your information, I'm the one he really loves. Besides, Tom's wife is nothing but a housekeeper.
For some reason, Rachel, clearly annoyed, slammed her hand on the table. Seeing this, the waiter quickly approached. "Sorry for the disturbance. We'll wrap this up shortly," I said with a sharp glare. The waiter nodded nervously and stepped back. I turned back to Rachel and said to her, "The way you're putting it, you're admitting to your affair. Are you sure about that? Won't you regret it?"
What? This has nothing to do with you.
"Oh, is that so, Tom?" As I slammed my hand on the table, Tom flinched.
What? Wait. Tom?
Rachel's face suddenly turned pale. It seemed she had realized something. I gave Rachel a sly smile and then leaned in to look at Tom's face, still slumped over. "Hey, Tom, aren't you going to lift your head? Are you just going to leave your precious Mistress Rachel hanging?"
Well,
Mumbling doesn't help, you know? I placed my hand firmly on his shoulder, and like a startled cat, Tom shot upright. Grabbing his tie tightly, I asked in a low voice, "This tie, wasn't it supposed to be for work?"
no. I mean, today's for work.
"Work? You mean this fancy lunch date with Rachel?" I tightened my grip on his tie. That's when Tom started crying again.
It's not like that. She's just.
"So, Rachel, do you have anything you'd like to add?" When I turned to Rachel, she pouted angrily.
I already told you, I'm the one he really loves. Anyway, who even are you?
This woman is.
Tom's voice was barely a whisper. I stared at him intently. "Go ahead. Why don't you tell her? Say, this woman is just my unpaid housekeeper."
Unpaid, housekeeper.
Rachel's face twisted in shock, while I simply smiled. Since the words she had intended as an insult were thrown back at her, Rachel must have realized by now that the woman standing before her was actually Tom's wife. "Sorry, but could you keep quiet for a bit?" I said to Rachel, who looked down in silence. Nodding, I turned my attention back to Tom. Now then, shall we continue? It's a weekday, so what about work?
My employees are handling it.
Aren't you always busy every day? At my words, Tom started trembling, like a frightened puppy.
Well, usually I'm busy, but
So today you had time for an affair? When I asked that, he fell silent. Sighing, I pressed on. How long have you been having an affair?
it's not an affair.
Even now, Tom denied it. I was utterly exasperated. Not an affair? Then what is it?
I told you, it's for work.
There was no way such a flimsy excuse would work. The fact was, Rachel had already admitted to her affair. Tom probably thought her words wouldn't count as evidence. Of course, this kind of situation could easily turn into a pointless argument. But I was fully prepared for that. So, I asked Tom, her name was Rachel, wasn't it? You're saying what you have with her isn't an affair?
Yes, it's not an affair. She's a business associate.
But didn't she just say it was an affair? Tom averted his eyes and muttered,
What are you talking about? You have no proof.
I do.
What?
Tom looked stunned. I smiled and reached behind me.
Here, a voice recorder. It's still recording.
Julie placed the voice recorder in my hand. I held it out in front of Tom. See? If you want evidence, I can let you hear it anytime. At my words, Tom collapsed onto the spot. If this were a movie or drama, the end credits would probably roll here. But my act of revenge isn't over yet. There's still one thing I haven't brought out. Judging by the way you're groveling on the floor, it looks like you're admitting to the affair, right?
Fine, I admit it. Just stop. Don't humiliate me any further here.
As Tom pleaded with me, I smiled and said, What? It's not fine. I still have things I want to ask you.
What?
Tom looked confused. I handed the voice recorder back to Julie. Then I pulled some documents out of my bag and slammed them onto the table. These are the results of your background investigation.
Background investigation?
Yes, and according to this, Rachel over there is just your plaything, isn't she? I glanced at Rachel, and her face changed color.
Wait. What do you mean by that?
Rachel snapped at me. Her anger was understandable. Because until now, Rachel must have thought she was his number one. But that's not the case. For a man who cheats, his number one can easily change. In fact, the investigation revealed that Tom had another mistress. This was also uncovered during the background check. It's impossible to forgive someone who has been cheating with multiple people. Naturally, I couldn't forgive him either. And so, I decided to get a divorce. By the way, today I had called my best friend Julie to discuss plans for after my divorce. After calmly explaining all of this, I flipped through another page of the investigation report. Your current favorite is the woman who works as your secretary at the office, right?
Well, no, I mean.
Tom stammered. Rachel turned to Tom angrily.
You told me I was your number one. Was that a lie?
If I'm just the unpaid housekeeper, then you were nothing more than the convenient woman. I said with a sarcastic laugh, and Rachel glared at me in frustration.
That's enough. I'm going to sue Tom. I'll demand compensation for deceiving me.
Good idea. I fully support you. But just so you know, I'll also be demanding compensation from you.
What? Compensation.
Of course, you're Tom's mistress. Asking for damages for infidelity is perfectly reasonable. I smirked at Rachel, and she bit her teeth in frustration. Do you have anything to say?
Nothing. Do whatever you want.
Sure, I will.
When I get money from Tom, I'll use it to pay the compensation.
Rachel shouted. Behind me, Julie muttered.
Got that on record.
What? Who do you think you are?
Oh, did you forget already? I'm the one in charge of recording.
Julie held up the voice recorder. Rachel, visibly annoyed, tried to snatch it away.
Give that to me.
If you do anything rash, I'll call the police or maybe even a lawyer.
At Julie's words, Rachel faltered. I smirked to myself. Of course, I didn't think Julie's line carried any deeper intention. It was likely just meant to calm Rachel down and prevent the situation from escalating further. But to me, it meant much more. Feeling grateful to Julie, I turned to Rachel and tried to soothe her. Making a scene will only work against you. You should calm down.
What? And why do you conveniently have a voice recorder? Did you set this whole thing up?
Rachel shot me a suspicious look, but she was gravely mistaken. As I mentioned earlier, Julie is a nurse. She always carries a voice recorder to document situations where she might have to help someone in an emergency. If her efforts succeed, there's no issue. But what happens if the attempt to help doesn't succeed? In such a case, Julie, who only tried to assist, could end up being blamed. There are plenty of people in this world who would choose not to help to avoid criticism. However, Julie didn't think that way. She carries a voice recorder to document what she has done as proof, just in case. That's all there is to it. There's no ulterior motive. I explained this to Rachel.
Wow, acting all high and mighty. Trying to seem like a good person?
I won't deny it, but I'm still a better person than a woman who steals someone else's husband.
What did you just say?
Rachel's face turned sour. I stepped between Rachel and Julie. All right, that's enough. For now, you do whatever you think is best. That approach suited me just fine. If Rachel took the matter to court, Tom would be cornered. Even if the court didn't award damages, Tom would still suffer significant consequences. Adding my divorce and compensation claims on top of that would leave Tom with serious damage. Thinking he might finally be feeling the pressure, I turned to face Tom. Tom, are you ready to apologize sincerely now? When I asked, Tom kept his head down. I thought he was crying again, but something felt different this time. I leaned in to look at his face. Suddenly, Tom started laughing.
You've grown a lot, Ashley.
What?
You used to be so shy, but now you're talking normally even in front of so many people.
Tom stood up, laughing. Then he continued with the flair of a stage actor.
My tearful pleas didn't work on you. You didn't flinch, not even a little. I'm impressed.
What's your point?
It's simple. You want to divorce me, right? Fine, I'll let you go.
Tom spoke arrogantly, which irritated me. Do you really think you're in a position to act so high and mighty?
Oh, I am. Can you even manage to live on your own without me?
Tom smirked. I calmly retorted, of course. I've got that much figured out.
Really? You've never even been in the workforce. Do you think you can handle it all by yourself?
Tom asked smugly, his grin widening. Without thinking, I averted my gaze. I couldn't deny the faint anxiety I felt, but I couldn't bear the idea of staying married to Tom. I didn't want a life where I had to silently endure his endless infidelities. I'll be fine. I'll manage somehow.
Will you really? I can still forgive you, you know. If you apologize now, I won't leave you. So what will it be?
Of course, my answer was already decided. but the words wouldn't come out. I clenched the documents on the table. Someone once said, if you give up, it's over. I won't give up. I'll divorce Tom and take my first step toward a new life. I tore off a portion of the document I was holding and handed it to Julie behind me. Julie, call this number. I muttered just loud enough for Julie to hear. There was no need to say more. Having been my best friend for years, Julie would understand exactly what I meant. In the past, I trusted Tom's words. I chose not to get a job and married him because of what he said. But now, things are different. The one I trust isn't Tom anymore. The one I trust is my best friend, Julie. Taking a deep breath, I raised my head resolutely. Why should I apologize? I haven't done anything wrong.
Aren't you going to regret it? You can't work outside anyway. Well, not that it's an accident. I made sure of that.
What?
What? You hadn't realized. Fine, let me spell it out for you. So,
Tom began speaking confidently. His story went all the way back to when I was a university student. Back then, I was so shy that I could barely hold a conversation. Even when my classmates suggested I join a club, I couldn't even bring myself to refuse. Tom, being an upperclassman in the club, had noticed this. So he purposely approached me to start a conversation. However, he had one intention behind it. It was to manipulate me to suit his own needs. By pretending to be kind, Tom made me feel like he was easy to talk to. Yet, he deliberately didn't create an environment where I could interact comfortably with other club members. Simply put, he isolated me within his circle. I never realized this. In the end, I started dating Tom, but my relationships with others remained shallow. The number of people I could talk to was limited, and I ended up doing whatever Tom said. Following his advice, I didn't get a job after graduation and married him right away. In other words, Tom's goal was to prevent me from building relationships with others.
even if you've improved a bit, you'll slip up somewhere.
So what?
If you make a mistake, you might suddenly panic and become a shut-in.
Tom's words sounded like a threat. I could feel my heart pounding rapidly.
So, what's your choice? Are you really going through with the divorce?
Tom pressed me for an answer. I clenched my fists and looked down. At that moment, a man entered the restaurant. The eyes focused on us were instantly drawn away.
Hello, I'm Alex, an attorney. May I ask where Ashley is?
The man, who introduced himself as Alex, asked the waiter. The waiter pointed at me.
Oh, it's you.
As Alex started to speak, he suddenly stopped. His gaze landed on Rachel, who was trying to hide her face.
Could it be Rachel?
Well, Alex, what a coincidence.
What are you doing here?
I steadied my breathing and spoke. I apologize for calling you here. The truth is, Rachel and Tom have been having an affair. I pointed at Rachel and her eyes widened.
Hey, stop it.
Rachel, can you keep quiet for a moment?
No. She's lying.
Rachel said, pointing at me. I handed the documents on the table to Alex. These are the proof of their affair. And this man is my husband, Tom.
Stop it. Don't make things up.
Rachel tried to snatch the documents away. At that moment, Alex raised his voice.
Rachel, are you cheating again?
No. It's a misunderstanding.
What misunderstanding? I told you if you cheated again, we'd break up, didn't I?
At Alex's words, gasps could be heard throughout the restaurant. The truth was, Rachel had another boyfriend besides Tom. That boyfriend was Alex, the man standing before us. Alex was a successful attorney with a bright future. Rachel must have thought so too. Then why had Rachel cheated with Tom? The answer was simple. Rachel had been using Tom to pass the time. While a talented lawyer like Alex made an ideal marriage partner, his work naturally kept him busy. With too much free time on her hands, Rachel turned her attention to Tom. But Rachel never intended to marry Tom. However, the thought of not being number one despite her beauty irritated Rachel, so she insisted on being the top priority. So when you found out Tom had other mistresses, it made you angry, didn't it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
To Rachel, Tom was nothing more than a way to kill time. That's why, even during our conflict, Rachel never claimed she wanted to marry Tom.
I sincerely apologize for any trouble Rachel has caused.
Alex apologized, and I shook my head. It's fine. I'll be divorcing Tom. Please help me with our divorce process.
Understood. We'll also claim compensation. Naturally, from the mistress too.
Alex looked intently at Rachel. Rachel, panicked, began making excuses.
Wait. Alex, you're my boyfriend, right? Aren't you going to help me?
Of course not. You brought this on yourself. Take responsibility for your actions.
Rejected by Alex, Rachel stood there in shock. When I glanced at Tom, he was crying again. But this time, it wasn't a ploy for sympathy. Being called away to pass the time seemed to have hit him hard.
Shall we move somewhere else? We've caused enough trouble for this restaurant.
Julie said, trying to wrap things up. Finally, I came back to my senses. It goes without saying that we apologized to the restaurant staff and quickly left the establishment. After leaving the restaurant, we went straight to Alex's law office. There, I told Tom that I wanted a divorce and demanded compensation from him. Although Tom kept crying, making it difficult to proceed, Alex managed to help me secure Tom's agreement to the divorce. Of course, Tom also agreed to pay alimony, and we were officially divorced. Additionally, Rachel reluctantly agreed to pay compensation, which made the discussion satisfying for me. For the record, I also demanded alimony from the company's secretary, who had been involved with Tom. Surprisingly, the full amount was transferred to my account the day after I made the claim. It seems that the secretary left the company and disappeared before news of the affair could spread. Perhaps the secretary also had someone she considered her main partner. Otherwise, it's hard to imagine such a swift response. If that's the case, Tom was merely a way to pass time for Rachel and just a casual fling for the secretary. In the end, Tom was abandoned by everyone, left in shambles. After the divorce, Tom couldn't focus on work and has reportedly been living as a recluse at his parents' house. Apparently, he's also having conflicts with Rachel, which leaves me feeling quite relieved. As for Rachel, she's facing her own struggles. Naturally, Alex and Rachel broke up. Rachel tried to reconcile, but Alex wouldn't entertain her attempts. Unwilling to give up, Rachel eventually caused a scene that escalated to a police matter. I don't know the details, but it seems she was arrested, so I won't be seeing her anytime soon. My only concern now is whether she'll be able to pay the alimony. However, since Alex spoke with Rachel's parents, I believe that matter will work itself out. By the way, I'm now happily working as a tutor at a learning center. It was Mark who introduced me to the job. After taking over Tom's company, Mark connected me with one of their partner learning centers.
Well, it worked out, didn't it? Your job's going well, right?
Since my divorce, I've been meeting Julie more often. It's probably because Julie is worried about me. I'm grateful for that, but there's one question she always asks that puts me on the spot.
So, have you found a new boyfriend yet?
This is it. I sighed and replied, I'm not interested in dating or marriage for a while.
Really?
Yes, really. I'm enjoying my work right now. And that's the truth. Since the divorce, this is my first proper job. It's a different kind of fulfillment compared to when I was working as an online tutor. It's like experiencing the joy of labor. It feels something like that. For now, I just want to focus on my work. Being able to live such a fulfilling life makes me genuinely happy, more than I can put into words.